Hey y'all, welcome back to Mouse Ears and Magical Chats. I'm Mary Beth. It's just me again today. Well, this week, Jess has been working her butt off at her normal job. So hopefully, we're going to have her back soon. Me and her are actually heading to Disney later this month for the springtime surprise. So we should be getting back at it soon. But while she's off enjoying her work, I thought it would be a perfect time to talk about something that I've personally used on one of my own Disney trips, and that's the David's Vacation Club rentals. If you've ever looked at a Disney Deluxe resort, the prices are a little bit high, and you're thinking, that sounds amazing, but absolutely not for my wallet. Well, then this is going to be for you because that was how I was until I started really looking at David's Vacation Club rentals. So today I'm going to share my honest experience about using them because I just used them on my last stay and I used them twice. So I stayed at Beach Club Villas and later booked a 2-bedroom villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So what I loved about it and what you guys should know, there is a big trade-off if you're going to book with them. So let's talk about it. First, let's start with basics. Because if you've ever heard people talk about renting DVC points and you've thought, kind of know what that means, but not really, you're definitely not alone. I was completely there too. David's Vacation Club Rentals is a service that connects Disney Vacation Club owners who have unused points with Disney fans who want to stay at vacation club resorts, so like the deluxe resorts. That's me. And you don't have to be a member yourself. So it's connecting those two people. Originally, so according to their website, they have David Mullet originally started renting out his own unused Disney Vacation Club points to other Disney fans who had wanted to stay in those beautiful DVC resorts for less. So what started as this one owner sharing extra points turned into what's now the oldest and largest and most trusted source of DVC rentals. Because if you're going to be spending the money and you're going to be entering into a contract for your stay, you wanted to know that was right. So I did my research. They have been around since 2005, and their whole idea is to help guests experience Disney deluxe accommodations at a lower cost. And I got to do that without buying into Disney Vacation Club. So basically, if you've dreamed of staying somewhere like Beach Club, Animal Kingdom Lodge, Boardwalk, Grand Floridian, any of those gorgeous deluxe villa resorts, this is a way to do it without paying Disney's full deluxe room rates. Great, right? So let me tell you how this worked for me, because I think this is where DVC rentals really shined. So for part of our trip, there was going to be 3 adults and 2 children, and two of the adults had scooters. So honestly, the extra space was such a huge benefit. It made the room feel so much more comfortable and functional than a standard room would have. I have gone on the same trip with the same people and stayed in a pop room. And obviously, if you have 2 scooters, that is not great. Even if you have a lot of luggage, that's not great. So this was so much more space with that. So that alone was a huge win. If you've ever traveled with a bigger family or with grandparents or any kind of mobility equipment, you already know the room space matters so much more than people realize when they're pricing the trip. We had more room to move around, more room to put everyone's things around, and just some breathing room in general. It was less cramped, which matters when you're coming back so tired from the parks and you just want to chill. So it was great. And then later in the trip, when the rest of the family joined us, so we were going to have 9 people total, we switched over to a 2-bedroom villa at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And the setup allowed us to fit all 9 people in. We were in Jumbo House. It was absolutely excellent. And I have to say, I had originally worried because I saw Jumbo House was a lockout room instead of an actual normal 2-bedroom villa. So I had the 1-bedroom villa plus a lockout room. And then it ended up being amazing. We got a Savannah room. I don't even know how we did that. And we were right there with everything. So David's Vacation Rental did us a solid, but in general, made sense for us with 9 people. So instead of trying to piece together multiple rooms with everyone and then trying to figure it out, it just made sense for the size of our group to rent these points. So for a multi generational family trip, this was a game changer. It gave us space to spread out. It made things more comfortable for everyone, and it really helped the trip feel smoother. And we truly did have our own separate spaces throughout that. So it was great. And then we got to wake up to animals. So, really awesome. So, my biggest takeaway after using Disney's Vacation Club rentals is this: it felt like we were getting a deluxe resort experience at a price that was much closer to a moderate. And if you want to spend more on your magic, this is a great way of still getting that magic in without sacrificing your wallet. And if you know Disney pricing, you know that's kind of a big deal. This was probably the biggest pro for me. I'm all about maximizing my magic without maximizing my wallet. So if you're getting access to a Disney level resort, beautiful theming, fantastic locations, and those larger villa style accommodations, but without the sticker shock that usually comes with it, huge pro. So, second pro was definitely the extra space. That mattered so much for our group, especially with the scooters and having the mix of adults and kids. A villa setup worked differently than our normal standard hotel would have for us. It made the trip noticeably more comfortable, and I truly mean that. And the third big pro is that this can be an amazing option for larger families or multi generational trips, as I've said. Once you start adding grandparents, kids, and maybe the mobility devices like us, and just more bodies in general, the value of the extra square footage goes way up. Sometimes a villa isn't just a luxury, it's what makes the trip worth it. It was worth it. So let's get to the cons. And there's not very many of them, but there are cons, or at least things to be aware of if you're booking with David's Vacation Club. So, major downside is something you absolutely need to understand before booking, but the biggest con is flexibility. When you book directly with Disney, you usually have room to make changes if your plans shift. I think that I call Jess so many times when I want to shift things. So maybe you need to change dates, adjust your stay, or pivot your plans slightly, which I did have to do on this trip, and I did it outside of the DVC piece, which I'll talk about in a minute. But with a DVC rental, you do not have the same flexibility. You are entering into a contract because you're essentially renting points from a Disney Vacation Club owner. Those reservations are usually much more restrictive. That means if you need to change dates later on, it's not as simple as modifying a regular Disney reservation. In some cases, changes may be limited or not possible, or I wanted to possibly change one of my hotels. And when I talked to my friend, well, Jess, who was a DVC rent, she owns DVC herself, saw that there were rooms open in Saratoga. But because I entered into this contract, they couldn't just move me like a regular DVC member would. They were going to charge me 25% of my booking to change that. Like as a fee, and it's part of the contract that you sign. So we just stayed, and I ended up realizing David's Vacation Club rental was doing me a solid because that's when we stayed at Jumbo House and didn't even realize it. So that con turned into a pro. So for me, this is really the trade off. You can save a lot of money and get a much nicer hotel experience, but you need to be confident in the dates that you're booking. You need to know your plans and know what you're doing. If you are someone who likes to book something and then tweak it 5 times, this might not be your favorite route. But if you know your dates, you know your priorities, and you're comfortable locking things in, this is definitely worth. So I think Disney's David's Vacation Club rental is especially great for a few different type of Disney travelers. First, if you always wanted to stay at a deluxe, but the price feels out of reach, this is absolutely worth looking into. Second, if you are traveling with a larger family or doing a multi-generational trip, this is such a smart option because those larger villas can make the trip easier and more comfortable. And third, if you're the type of Disney planner who likes to lock things early and stick with the plan, you're probably going to love the value here. It's a lot more than someone who wants maximum flexibility, which I did say that I was going to explain my other flexibility problem. So we live in the Northeast and there was a blizzard going on. My flight was canceled, so I was able to get a flight the day before I was supposed to fly out so I could get ahead of the blizzard. But obviously, my DVC rental didn't cover that. So I just called Jess, my travel agent, and she booked me a room over at Port Orleans Riverside for the night. So we were set. But remember, there's just flexibility issues. But if you have a great travel agent that's on hand, they take care of it really easily. So overall, my honest take on David's Vacation Club rentals, it was amazing. And if you want to stay at Disney Deluxe resorts for much less, especially if extra space matters for you and your family, then this is a great value. I would highly recommend them. Even when I did contact them and they couldn't help me with my issue without the charge, they were on top of it. They were quick. I really appreciated what they were doing for me. And for our trip, it worked really well. We love the extra space at Beach Club. I like that I could walk over to Epcot and enjoy all the stuff at Boardwalk. And that 2-bedroom villa at Animal King Lodge was such a great fit once our larger group arrived. So if you have been dreaming of staying deluxe without paying full deluxe Disney prices, this is definitely an option I think is worth researching. If you've ever used David's Vacation Club rentals or rented DVC points for a Disney trip, let us know what your experience was, because I thought mine was really great and I would definitely recommend them, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. And if you're considering it, tell us which DVC resort is at the top of your wish list. Thanks for listening to Mouse Ears and Magical Chats. I'll see you next time.